Good evening and thank you for tuning in. I'm Daniel Che with the latest on this Thursday night. We begin with some traffic updates. Some early birds may already have made it to their hometowns to celebrate Lunar New Year holiday with their relatives. But as expected, the mass exodus from Seoul that began yesterday continues on this first day of the four-day weekend. Still, traffic conditions are improving. Those hitting the road from Seoul at this hour can expect to arrive in Busan in around 5 hours, Daejeon 2 hours, Gwangju 3 hours and 20 minutes, and Gangneung in around 2 hours 50 minutes. These are some dramatic improvements from earlier in the day when drivers could expect to be on the road around 3 hours longer to get to any of the aforementioned destinations. The Korea Expressway Corporation is advising travelers to be prepared for traffic conditions to get a bit worse tomorrow, which is the actual Lunar New Year's Day or Seollal, as they expect more than 4.5 million vehicles to be on the road nationwide. Now, Lunar New Year's Day in Korea and traditional savory dishes go hand in hand. But if you're looking to cut back on the calories, local food experts say there's plenty you can do to cook up a storm of healthy and delicious holiday treats. Our Paul Yi has more.
Here in Korea, the gathering of family during Lunar New Year's Day wouldn't be complete without the sound of sizzling meatballs and the hearty aroma of rice cake stew or dokguk. However, your typical Korean holiday feast can quickly fill up a table with delicious foods that are often high in fat and loaded with calories. But researchers at the Rural Development Administration say there are many ways to go healthy without sacrificing taste. For example, using fresh zucchinis instead of battered pork can give dishes a kick of flavor and a yummy texture. Other key cooking tips include avoiding frying foods with lots of oil in the frying pan and using less salt in favor of other spices.
There wasn't as big a difference in taste as I thought there would. Even though I used a lot of oil before, I guess it's better to cook with a little less grease so there's a lower amount of calories.
These simple adjustments in recipes and ingredients can reduce the average level of calories in dishes by some 20%. And over a single holiday weekend, the nutritional savings can add up quickly.
Rather than using a lot of grease in baking or frying our foods, we use cooking methods such as grilling or boiling, which use much less oil. We were also able to lower calories by using less fatty ingredients and using vegetables instead of meat.
The smart culinary choices stay true to the traditional spirit of the lunar holiday by satisfying the appetites of loved ones while wishing them good health in the new year. Paul Yi, Arirang News.
We are going to shift gears now. While the Korean government is making an effort to control the spread of the bird flu virus, especially during the Lunar New Year holiday, when many of the nation's residents will be traveling, it appears to be harder than ever to contain it. 2 more chicken farms confirmed the virus earlier this Thursday, one in Hwaseong in the central province of Gyeonggi-do and another in Miryang in Gyeongsangnam-do province in the southeastern part of the country. The contamination in Miryang is especially disturbing as it shows the virus is gradually spreading eastward. Prior to that report, the virus had only been detected in the west. All of the chickens on the farm in Miryang have already been culled, while in Hwaseong, all chickens within a radius of 3 kilometers have been buried. Moving on to other stories, East Asian tensions flare at a United Nations Security Council debate on Wednesday as Japan came under fire from neighboring countries as usual on its attitude towards unresolved issues of history. The theme of the day was lessons of war and how to build lasting peace, but ironically, the dispute just continued to grow. Our Kwon So-ah has more.
China, South and North Korea were united in condemning Japan for recent actions that have stirred controversy in East Asia, denying its wartime past and distorting history on Wednesday. This happened at a UN Security Council debate on war and peace, marking the 100th anniversary of the start of World War I. The accusations began to fly when China's UN ambassador Liu Jie said Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's recent visit to the controversial Yasukuni War Shrine had closed the door to dialogue with China. South Korean Ambassador Oh Jun and North Korea's envoy Lee Dong-il also criticized Japan's leaders for the visit.
Japanese political leaders worshipping at the Yasukuni Shrine, where Class A war criminals are enshrined, is a direct challenge to the foundation on which Japan rejoined the international community in the post-war world.
It is rare for a Korean UN envoy to lambaste a representative from another country at such an open international meeting. Japan's UN envoy hit back at the three neighbors, defending the Prime Minister's shrine visit.
He underlined that the purpose of his visit was to renew the pledge that Japan shall never again wage war. It was by no means to pay homage to Class A war criminals or to praise militarism.
Prime Minister Abe said the same day that he would ignore an advisory issued by the UN Committee on Social, Economic and Cultural Rights last May to punish those responsible for the Japanese military sexual enslavement of women during World War II, compensate the victims and issue a formal apology from the Japanese government. The following day, Abe also made a remark about Japan's claim to the Korea-controlled Dokdo Island, saying he is considering bringing the case to the International Court of Justice. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
Staying with the tensions in East Asia, a Japanese politician apparently painted himself to a corner and now is probably putting his foot in his mouth with a comment that seems to imply a comparison between the women who were forced into sexual slavery during World War II and common prostitutes. According to Japanese daily Asahi Shimbun on Thursday, lawmaker Masashi Nakano said that he sees no reason why Japan still has to be responsible for the comfort women when there are currently 50,000 Korean women working in the sex industry. The previous day, an aide to U.S. President Barack Obama encouraged all world leaders to demonstrate a degree of sensitivity to historical concerns. North Korea is gearing up to upgrade its missile capabilities according to the latest analysis of satellite images of its main launch site. Johns Hopkins University's U.S.-Korea Institute reported on movements that indicate an expansion of the Soya site in Dongchangli. The institute said on its 38 North blog, the modifications should provide North Korea with more advanced missile capabilities, possibly giving it the ability to eventually strike U.S. soil. It said that the evidence indicates Pyongyang may be preparing for a more robust rocket test program in the future. The think tank also said the North may have tested a rocket engine needed for its road-mobile KN-08 intercontinental ballistic missile. Robert Gates, the former U.S. Secretary of Defense, is proving to be quite the oracle, as he did mention back in 2011 that North Korea could develop intercontinental missile capable of hitting the U.S. Pacific coast within 5 years. South Korea is once again urging North Korea to respond to Seoul's proposal to hold a new round of reunions for families separated since the Korean War. Seoul has suggested holding the reunions in the third week of February, just days after Pyongyang had proposed the reunions be held. The Unification Ministry said Thursday that the North shouldn't have made its proposal to hold the reunions if it wasn't sincere, as it will only hurt the feelings of the separated families. The South Korean government also expressed its regret about the North's reported progress on its nuclear weapons program and again urged Pyongyang to give up the program. As widely expected, the U.S. Federal Reserve has decided on a second straight cut to its bond buying stimulus program. Policymakers here in Korea say the impact of the Fed's move on the domestic economy will be limited. Hwang Ji-hye has the details.
The Korean government said Thursday that the U.S. Federal Reserve's decision to further scale back its monthly bond purchases will have a limited impact on the domestic economy. In a meeting with government officials and market watchers, Finance Minister Hyun Ho-seok cited the nation's strong economic fundamentals.
Considering Korea's solid fundamentals, like the current account surplus and sufficient foreign reserves, there will be little impact from the Fed's decision.
While downplaying the impact of the Fed's move, the Korean government still said that there are risks stemming from emerging markets like Argentina and Turkey, where stimulus tapering could cause market instability.
We will keep a close eye on the global market fluctuations that may occur due to the Fed's stimulus tapering.
The economic policymakers added that the government will maintain its current emergency monitoring of the global market and work with related agencies to take action if necessary. The government's prediction comes after the Fed's decision to cut its monthly bond purchases for a second straight time by $10 billion to $65 billion, given the positive outlook for the U.S. economy. Experts echoed the Korean government's position, saying that the Fed's move, which was widely expected, would not pose major new challenges for the Korean economy. Hwang Ji-hye, Arirang News.
Shifting our sights to the always topsy-turvy tech realm, Motorola Mobility will soon be a Chinese company. Google announced Wednesday it is selling the struggling U.S. cell phone maker to Chinese computer maker Lenovo for almost $3 billion. With the move, the internet search giant steps out of the smartphone manufacturing business for good. The sale price is a lot lower than the $12.5 billion that Google paid for Motorola in late 2011, but many experts view this as a sound business strategy. Google shares rose 2.6% in after-hours trading on optimism that the company had ditched a business that was nothing but a drag on its earnings. Lenovo has much to gain as well, as they now own the Motorola brand and current and future products, including the Moto X smartphone. The Chinese company will also acquire more than 2,000 patents and the Motorola trademark portfolio. That's more than enough to make the new Motorola a dangerous dark horse in the global smartphone market. Now it's time for us to check out the weather conditions in your neck of the woods and around the world. And that brings us to the end of our newscast. As our Paulie reported, you could go healthy, but I say if you want to get wet, you might as well go swimming. So don't kill the fat and kill the flavor. Enjoy your food and work out a lot more after you enjoy your Seollal festivities. Thank you for staying with us. This has been Daniel Che.